We ready to go?
Ready to go.
Yep. All right to go? Yep. Well, good morning. My name's Barry O'Rourke and I'm the State Member for Rockhampton. It is absolutely wonderful to have our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, here today, and also the Acting Premier, Stephen Miles. And it's just such a big event for Rockhampton and Central Queensland, the works that are taking place here with the Rockhampton Ring Road. I'm so proud to be part of government that is delivering on major infrastructure projects like this that creates so many local jobs and looks after our community. I'd now like to just hand over to the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Barry, and it's great to be here with yourself and with Brittany, the State Member for Keppel, and with my friend, the Acting Premier, Stephen Miles, but also Senator Murray Watt, who does such a good job representing Queensland in the National Parliament. Can I say that it's fantastic to be back here in Rockhampton, my second visit as the Prime Minister, but as Swarto was telling me, more than 20 visits here to Rocky over the years. And some of those visits were, of course, to announce infrastructure projects, to commence infrastructure projects and to build infrastructure projects as well. Projects like the Yeppoon floodplain, which is different from Yeppoon, I might remind the Leader of the Opposition. And we did that project, we funded it, and it was built, and now it's opened and making an enormous difference. We also commenced the planning work and funding for the Rocky Ring Road. But of course we lost government in 2013, and then nothing happened for the decade in which the coalition were in office. But now that you have a federal Labor government working with the Queensland Labor government, we're getting on with this project, and that's why we've brought forward, there's $280 million will be brought forward to commence a project that will cost more than $1 billion. We're still doing the final costing because it wasn't done properly by the former government. But we want to make sure this project gets done and gets done as quickly as possible. And here on site already we're seeing early works underway, and we want that to continue throughout 2013 and to get this project up and running as soon as possible. This project will create hundreds of jobs. It will mean that more than 2,600 heavy vehicles each and every day are taken out of the CBD of Rockhampton. That will make an enormous difference in terms of road safety, efficiency and productivity benefits, job creation in the short term in construction, but also a part of nation building, infrastructure, productivity improvements that we'll see with this project that's so vital. It will take these vehicles away from 19 sets of traffic lights and 56 intersections. So the scale of this project, with more than a dozen bridges needed to be built because of the nature of the land that we're dealing with here, means that this is a complex project, but we're ready to go, and those early works being undertaken are so important. Important for jobs, important for infrastructure and transport, important for the industries that are supported by this great regional city, including the beef industry. This combines with the $200 million that we're investing on the Bruce Highway between Rockhampton and Gladstone, and the $400 million that we're investing in beef and in cattle roads projects around Queensland. When I was appointed the Infrastructure Minister, the previous Howard government spent $1.3 billion over 12 long years on the Bruce Highway. We invested $7.6 billion in half the time in our 6 years in office. It is only Labor governments that actually build infrastructure rather than talk about it, and that is what will be happening here, not just this year but in the years ahead, to bring this project to a reality. I'll hand over to Stephen Miles.
Thanks, Prime Minister. Central Queenslanders can be assured that the Palaszczuk government and the Albanese government stand together, committed to build the Rocky Ring Road. It is one of the most important infrastructure projects in our state, connecting people in Rockhampton with Gracemere, Mount Morgan and the Capricorn Coast, allowing them to get around, to work, to access commercial districts, education, tourism and of course the airport. It'll make freight movements faster, safer, and of course the road will be more resilient. Nearly 15 kilometres, more than $1 billion. The first phase will get underway in 2023. We've completed the land acquisitions required. A local contractor has secured the first contract that was awarded in December last year. There will be more contracts awarded through the first half of 2023. Utility providers are already doing the relocations that they need to do, and we've worked really closely with 100.7 FM for us, the Indigenous radio station that is currently located here. They'll move to the Dreamtime Cultural Centre. So you can really see work starting to get underway on this massive and important project.
Thanks very much. Happy to take questions. Before I do, I might just acknowledge Bob, who's here as well. Bob plays a critical role here at the radio station, but importantly today, when we commemorate the 50 years since Australia withdrew officially from engagement in the Vietnam War, Bob is not just a significant Indigenous leader here in Rockhampton, he's someone who served our country. He served our country for many years, including spending some 13 months in Vietnam with the Australian Defence Force during that war. And I pay tribute to Bob today, but I pay tribute as well to all of our veterans. Today will be a difficult day as well for those families who lost loved ones during the Vietnam War, for those who were injured and incapacitated during the Vietnam War as well. And today, like every day, I, on behalf of the Australian government, and indeed I think the people of Australia, say thank you to those who serve us in uniform in the Australian Defence Force.
Prime Minister, on the Rocky Ring Road here, obviously this is incredible and our state members worked really hard to get this underway. Is this a sign for what we can expect to see with infrastructure across the state, greater collaboration and getting those works finally started?
Oh, absolutely. I'm someone who wants to work with governments across the spectrum to get things done, and in the Palaszczuk government, with the Deputy Premier here today, the federal government has a partner who wants to work cooperatively, and it stands in contrast with the arguments that the Morrison government was determined to have without actually delivering a difference. So we'll work constructively. We'll work with Annastacia, Stephen, with Mark Bailey, with others in the government to make sure that Queensland gets the infrastructure that it deserves. We have more than $20 billion worth of projects in the pipeline for Queensland in infrastructure alone, and there are many other works that we'll continue to cooperate on.
What's the response to the death of Cardinal George Pell?
Well, for many people, particularly of the Catholic faith, this will be a difficult day, and I express my condolences to all those who are mourning today. I discussed with Archbishop Fisher this morning. I expressed my condolences to Archbishop Fisher on behalf of the government. Archbishop Fisher informed me that there will be a service held in the Vatican in coming days, but then there will be a service at St Mary's Cathedral at some time in the future. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade providing assistance to ensure that Cardinal Pell is brought back to Australia, and those arrangements are being put in place, and further announcements will be made when they are finalised.
Will you be attending the
It hasn't been set yet for any of those dates. There will be an event in the coming days in the Vatican, and that will be held as appropriate. The announcements will be made. They haven't been finalised yet, of course. This will come as a shock to many. This was a hip operation, and the consequences of it, unfortunately, have been that Cardinal Pell has lost his life, and I express my condolences to all those who will be mourning today.
On the safeguard mechanism, environmental groups have criticised the government for not putting limits on how much offsets businesses can buy. Does that give big emitters the ability to buy their way out of any change?
Now, we've got the balance right. What it's about is reducing emissions, and the safeguards mechanism that was established by the Abbott government, we're making sure that it is an important part of our Powering the Nation plan to reduce emissions by 43% by 2030. And I'm very pleased that it has been welcomed by the Business Council of Australia, by Australian Industry Group, by the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It was important that it was announced just south of here in Gladstone at the Rio Tinto refinery. Companies are moving. Business is moving. Businesses like Rio Tinto, I've been to the Gladstone facilities a number of times now. What they're looking at is how they continue their manufacturing processes while reducing emissions. That's the objective here, to maintain jobs, maintain industry, but do it in a way using clean energy. In order to do that, business needs certainty. What the announcement yesterday does is about providing business with that certainty to invest, to be able to achieve good outcomes for our economy whilst we're delivering good outcomes for the environment.
Do the proposed safeguard mechanisms go far enough to rule out handouts to the fossil fuel industry?
What we're doing is making sure that we get the balance right. This is the program that we announced in December of 2021 that we took to the election last year and received a mandate for it. And it has been widely supported by the business community because they want that certainty going forward. And the way that you achieve positive environmental outcomes is to bring the community with you, is to make sure that whilst reducing emissions and dealing with the challenge of climate change, you also enhance and create and seize the opportunities that are there with the shift to a clean energy economy by creating jobs at the same time. That is how you win the environmental debate. You won't win it by saying that we won't worry about jobs and industry and the economy. You'll win it by making sure that you deliver both. That's what my government's determined to do.
Yesterday, the Chinese ambassador raised World War II and warned that Australia should be wary of a possible military attack from Japan in the future. Do you think that's a serious prospect?
Well, we have a very positive relationship with Japan. I have visited Japan twice as Prime Minister and hosted Prime Minister Kishida at a very successful visit in Perth at the end of last year. I look forward to hosting Prime Minister Kishida here in sometime in 2023 as part of the Quad Leaders meeting. With China, we also want to see an improvement in relations. I believe that the ambassador's comments were positive and constructive about those issues. I met with President Xi last year. That was a positive meeting. It led to the Foreign Minister visiting Beijing on the 21st of December to commemorate the 50th anniversary of positive relations between Australia and the People's Republic of China. And I look forward to continuing to build on that constructive dialogue. I want to cooperate with China where we can. We will disagree where we must, but we'll engage in our national interest.
Ambassadors urging Australia to drop World Trade Organisation challenges to progress the relationship. Will you consider that?
What we'll do is engage in our national interest. We'll continue to do that. I've said with regard to our economic relationship that it is in Australia's interest to export the wonderful products that we have. Not the least, of course, is beef products here in Rocky. It is in Australia's interest, but I tell you what, it's in China's interest to receive those products as well, because we have the best beef in the world, we have the best sheep products in the world, we have the best seafood in the world, and our wine, I reckon, is the best in the world as well. And so this is, again, a win-win is what we're looking for here. I want to see a positive development. The dialogue has been constructive, and I think that no one can argue that the mood in the relationship has not been enhanced substantially since I've been Prime Minister. I've been busy making sure that that occurs. We'll continue to engage in a constructive way, but we do have differences with China, and we'll continue to stand up for our interests where we must.
On the Voice to Parliament referendum, questions are being raised about how misinformation will be combated in the lead up to the referendum, similar to what was seen during the same-sex marriage plebiscite. Does the government have any plans to combat this misinformation?
Well, we'll continue to put out the facts, and there is a range of information available on the website, and it is disappointing that Jane Hume, who was sent out as the coalition spokesperson, indicated that she hadn't read the report by Tom Calma and Marcia Langton that went to the cabinet of the Morrison government, not once but twice, forwarded by Ken Wyatt. This was a process that was established under the former government. There is the report that was co-chaired by Senator Patrick Dodson and Julian Leeser. Julian Leeser is the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Affairs. Now, all of the discussion about the Voice to Parliament, one thing is very, very clear, is that it isn't a third chamber, it doesn't have decision-making capacity, it is subservient to the Parliament, which is why the Parliament legislating for the details of the Voice is something that will occur. And the fact that that's been questioned, even though people know that no one's arguing anything other than that, is I believe, unfortunate here. One is to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in our nation's birth certificate. That's the first thing. The second is that Indigenous people themselves, through the process, have said they want that done in a way that enshrines a voice to Parliament in our Constitution, and a voice to Parliament that would be simply that, a voice, not a determining body, not a body that would fund programs, but a voice that would be consulted on issues that affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, which is how we will close the gap on education, on health, on justice issues, on all of these issues, because we know that when Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are consulted, then you get better outcomes. We've seen that with community health programs, with justice reinvestment programs, the Indigenous Rangers programs. That is how you move forward together. This is an opportunity to unite the nation, and I would just say that people should not put out disinformation. It will be combated where it can be, but I would say that there's a need to be responsible, particularly public office holders to be responsible and to not put up furphies in order to confuse a situation going forward.
You're heading to PNG tomorrow, second time lucky. What do you hope comes of the trip?
Well, this is a historic visit, and I thank Prime Minister Marape for the invitation. Tomorrow I will be the first foreign leader to ever address the Parliament of Papua New Guinea. That is an extraordinary honour for Australia, and is one that I regard as will be one of the great honours of my life. And tomorrow I'll be talking about our enhanced security arrangements. I'll be talking about how we can improve the economic relationship between Australia and PNG, how we can assist the economic development of Papua New Guinea, how we can also cooperate on areas like climate change. Part of the key to the entry point to engagement with our Pacific neighbours is taking climate change seriously. And I know that Prime Minister Marape is very concerned, like other leaders in the region, about those issues. I'll also be talking about our people-to-people relations. And one of those is I'm very keen to see a rugby league team participate in the NRL that would be based in Papua New Guinea and involve our Pacific Island friends as well. That's something that we've had discussions about, and I've discussed with the National Rugby League. There are no greater friends than Australia and Papua New Guinea. Tomorrow's visit will cement that, and the following day I'll be in Wewak. In order to make sure that we pay our respects to Sir Michael Samare as well, and to engage with that region will be important.
Have you heard anything official about the end to China's ban on Australian coal?
I note that there's been speculation on this. What we're doing is dealing with these issues diplomatically. We'll continue to put our case that any impediments which are there towards trade should be removed in Australia's interest and in China's interest.
Are you willing to consider relaxing foreign investment laws?
We have our position. We will continue to put forward our position, which is that it is in both of our countries' interests to remove the impediments which are there. And the fact that yesterday again the ambassador made positive soundings is a good sign, but we'll continue to engage diplomatically.
Just back to the rest of Parliament, sorry. Have conversations been had, or are there plans to have conversations with social media platforms on how they can support a factual campaign?
I have not had those discussions, but social media platforms have a responsibility to make sure that misinformation isn't got out there. I noticed today, for example, on the way up here, they've removed various sites that were up containing fake images of myself superimposed on other people. That's the sort of thing that is going on social media. Social media has a responsibility to do the right thing here.
Did you catch up with Premier Daniel Andrews on Saturday at a social gathering held by a wealthy businessman in Portsea? What did you guys discuss?
Well, I have private meetings all the time, and I have private meetings which are private meetings. Thanks very much.
Acting Premier, can I grab you, please?
PM, if you just have a photo. Sorry as well, if I can.